Some stories don't have endings. Some questions never get answered. Some people leave without a goodbye. Welcome to If I Can Say One More Thing, where we step into the stories that still linger. Misconnections, unspoken words, the what ifs that keep us up at night. Each episode, we explore a real request from someone searching for closure, understanding, or just a different perspective. Because sometimes the past doesn't give us answers, so we imagine them instead. Today's story takes us to the crossroads of nostalgia and regret. It's easy to think that time doesn't change anything when we're young. We make promises, grand ones, about never losing touch, about staying the same. But life has a funny way of turning those promises into faded memories. In The Promise We Never Kept, we meet two childhood friends, Daniel and Eli, who try to recapture something they lost along the way, perhaps just for a day. But as we'll see, some things can't ever be exactly the way they were. Join me as we explore whether the past can ever be revisited, and if it should be. The last time I saw Daniel, he was laughing. Not in a polite adult way, but in that wheezing, possibly dying way that only happens when you're a kid and everything is hilarious. We were 14, rocking back and forth on the swings at the sad excuse for a park near our house, watching the rusted chains groan in protest. Somewhere in our half-formed adolescent brains, we thought it would always be like this. Us kicking up dust, swearing we'd never lose touch. We were idiots. At first we tried. There were letters, then emails, then texts. Then the excuses started. Work, school, life, that thing where you mean to respond but don't. And suddenly you've forgotten what their voice even sounds like. The updates became more perfunctory, reduced to holiday greetings and forward memes that didn't require real conversation. Before I knew it, Daniel had become a person I used to know, a name I scrolled past in my contacts but never had a reason to press. I wonder if he ever thinks of me. If, in some moment between transatlantic flights or painfully silent elevator rides, he remembers the time I convinced him to eat a raw onion for $5, or the way we sat on his roof one summer, debating whether we'd rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck. For the record, it's the horses. Always the horses. When I heard he was back in town, I hesitated. Did I really want to dig through that particular time capsule? Would I still recognize the person who had once told me, dead serious, that he wanted to be a professional kazoo player? In the end, nostalgia won. Want to grab a drink? I texted. A full day passed before his response. Yeah. The bar was one of those places that screamed, I used to be a laundromat, full of mismatched furniture and drinks served in repurposed jam jars. I was already there when Daniel walked in, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. The wiry kid with the perpetually skinned knees had been replaced by someone with impeccable posture and a sweater that probably costs more than my rent. Eli, he grinned, you look exactly the same. And you look like you have a mortgage, I replied. We started with the usual questions: work, family, happiness, like some ordinary warm-up before getting into the real stuff. It wasn't until around 2 in the morning that we finally let go of the polite small talk and fell into something more familiar. I drove past the old park, he said. It looks smaller. I nodded. Turns out it was never that big. We just had shorter legs. His laugh was quieter than I remembered, but still there. Do you ever think about that summer? The one before everything changed, he asked. All the time, I replied. His eyes met mine. Yeah, me too. We sat in silence, letting that sink in. It was the kind of quiet that held too much. Years of missed calls, of almost texts, of wondering if the other ever felt the same ache of absence. Then I said, what if we had one more day? One day to be those kids again. No work, no obligations, just us, as if nothing had changed. Daniel exhaled a soft laugh, shaking his head. You really think we can? I don't know, I admitted. But wouldn't it be nice to try? He hesitated, then grinned. Let's do it. The next day we met at the park. We did all the things that, as adults, we'd normally roll our eyes at. We climbed the jungle gym until our knees protested. We raced barefoot across the grass. We bought neon blue popsicles and let them stain our tongues. At one point, Daniel tried to do a cartwheel and nearly tore something vital, which felt about right for two grown men revisiting their childhood. By sunset, we were by the river, skipping stones, our limbs aching in a way they never had at 14. The sky was painted in deep oranges and purple, and for a while, we just listened to the water, the soft plunk of stones disappearing beneath its surface. I forgot how bad I am at this, Daniel muttered, watching his rock sink on impact. You were never great, I teased. You always said it was pointless, something about physics and angles and whatever nonsense you used to justify quitting. He smirked. Still not a fan of physics. I threw a stone that skipped 5 times before vanishing. That one's for old times. Daniel nodded, his gaze distant. You think we ever would have kept that promise? You know, if life hadn't gotten in the way? I sighed, letting the last rock roll between my fingers. Maybe. But life always gets in the way. That's its job. The river carried away our last stones, and with them, maybe the weight of all the years in between. This was a terrible idea, he said, rubbing his shoulder, wincing like an old man who had just realized his youth had officially left the chat. He exhaled sharply, glancing at me with the kind of reluctant amusement that masked something heavier. Nostalgia had crept into the day, slipping between the laughter and the muscle aches, and now it sat between us, too obvious to ignore. Daniel shifted, as if physically shaking it off. Feels weird, doesn't it? Doing all this again? Yeah, I admitted, but good weird. He gave half a smile, looking down at his hands. I guess I just didn't expect it to feel this. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. I knew. It was the same ache I felt, the same bittersweet realization that we weren't those kids anymore, no matter how much we played pretend. Some things you can't rewind. But for a day, at least, we've gotten close. Yeah, I agreed. Let's do this again sometime. Daniel smiled, small but real. Okay. It wasn't a promise. We'd made those before and broken them. But maybe, just maybe, this time we wouldn't. And that was the promise we never kept. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed writing it. But now, let's dive deeper. Joining me is Eli, the person who inspired this story. He reached out because he had a childhood friend who he often would wonder about. What became of him? Where is he now? And if their friendship could ever be rekindled. Of course, for privacy reasons, the names in the story have been changed. Eli, welcome. So you've just heard the story. How did it make you feel?
Man, I wasn't ready for that. Thought I'd just sit back and listen, but nope. Kind of wrecked me in the best way. It was like watching scenes from my own life. Those stupid funny moments, then the slow drift apart, and that hesitation to just hit send on a text. It was all way too real.
One thing I really wanted to highlight in the story was how two people can sit across from each other and feel both incredibly close and yet so far apart.
Oh, 100%. That whole thing, being in the same space but feeling like there's this weird distance. You can know someone inside and out, but time passes. Life happens. And suddenly you're just orbiting each other. You get it, but at the same time you don't. And neither of you knows how to bridge that gap. Yeah, that hit hard.
That's exactly what I was hoping for. I wanted to capture that mix of nostalgia and bittersweetness. Did anything in particular stand out to you?
Oh, for sure, it was the humor. The whole bit about the ducks and horses. Classic. That's exactly the kind of dumb stuff Daniel and I would joke about. The stuff that would have us dying, laughing, while everyone else was just like, what's wrong with you two? It took me right back, man.
Right? And the humor plays such a huge role in friendships like that. It's not just the deep conversations, but it's also the weird inside jokes that make those relationships special. Now I have to ask, after hearing this possible outcome, do you think you'll reach out to your own quote-unquote Daniel?
You know, I mean, I've thought about it before, wondered where he's at, if he ever thinks about me the way I think about him. And now, I don't know, maybe it's time to stop overthinking and just do it. I mean, worst case, we trade a couple of hope you're good messages, and that's that. Best case, well, we actually catch up, Either way, at least I'd know.
Oh, that's amazing. And even if it doesn't turn out like the story, at least you'll know, right?
Exactly. No more what ifs. Time to just send the damn text.
Well, Eli, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your story with us. And to my listeners, have you ever had a moment like Eli's? A childhood friend, an old connection, someone special you wish you had reached out to? If you're curious to see what might have happened if only you had, I'd love to craft a personal short story just for you. If you're interested, send me an email at SayOneMoreThingPod@gmail.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with someone who might love it too. And if you haven't already, hit that follow button so you never miss a new episode. I've got so much more coming your way, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. Thank you for listening. I'm Andrea Applewick, and I'll see you next time on If I Can Say One More Thing.